Coming up, Hurricane Ian continues to pound Florida, leaving more than 2 million without power.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Tonight, Florida is taking a direct hit from one of the most powerful storms in U.S. history. Hurricane Ian's winds were clocked at 150 miles per hour as it made landfall earlier this afternoon. Now it's weakened a lot, still a hurricane though. The storm is expected to dump more than 1 foot of rain in some places. CBS's Jason Allen begins our coverage from Tampa.
Much of Florida is hunkered down for what may be one of the most severe weather events in U.S. history. Hurricane Ian is now churning its way across the state after making landfall as a Category 4 storm on Wednesday. Ian came ashore shortly after 3 p.m. just west of the city of Fort Myers. Peak wind speeds were measured at 150 miles an hour, tying it as the 5th strongest hurricane ever to hit the country. As night fell, more than 1 million homes and businesses were without power, a number officials feared would grow much higher. They also said emergency services had been suspended in some areas.
First responders will deploy as soon as it's safe to do so.
More than 2.5 million people were under evacuation orders as Ian approached. It's unclear how many stayed put to ride it out.
If it is calm outside, you may be in the eye of the storm.
Forecasters predicted severe flooding as the storm creeps inland.
So it's going to take 24 hours or so once it makes landfall to make it to the other side of the state across the peninsula. So it's 24 hours of rainfall, 24 hours of winds pushing the water.
Ian is expected to lose some of its intensity overnight, but the National Hurricane Center says it will likely inundate northern Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina through the weekend. Jason Allen, CBS News, Tampa.
We do understand some flash flood emergencies have been issued tonight. You may remember that's the type of warning that was issued 2 months ago here in eastern Kentucky and some of the hardest hit flooded counties. We also understand just before 11 o'clock the number of power outages has topped 2 million, and that number will probably go even higher than that. Rescue workers from FEMA, the Red Cross, and other agencies have been pre-positioned to go into the hardest hit areas once the storm passes.
The latest information on Hurricane Ian, a little bit of good news as we head into the 11 o'clock advisory. Just coming in a couple of minutes ago, a Category 1 hurricane, now that it is sitting well over the state's peninsula. Winds are down to 90 miles per hour. Pressure is up to 972 millibars, so it is losing strength as we head into the evening hours. The only problem is it's dropping a lot of heavy rain, and it's only moving at 8 miles an hour, currently 70 miles south of Orlando. So we'll continue to watch the potential for that to continue to spin off to the south. I'm actually going to, there's the current radar view. Steve was talking about flash flood emergencies. I'm going to turn the warnings on and actually see if we can't take a peek at one of these just to see what we're talking about. Plenty of heavy rain, and you see there a considerable threat with that particular warning, and those winds continue to howl out there. We're seeing just a few clouds around our region, a little bit quieter as we head toward the mountains. Temperatures into the middle 40s and low 50s. I'll have the details on what Ian could have in store for us coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. As Hurricane Ian continues to move across the Florida peninsula, we are hearing stories from those impacted by the storm, one being a Pike County native who works at our sister station in Sarasota. That's just south of the Tampa Bay area. WYMT's Dakota Makris talked with her earlier today about how she planned for the hurricane.
Melissa Ratliff is a Pike County native and lives in Sarasota, Florida. She works at our sister station WWSB as a digital content manager. She was sent to our sister station WCJB in Gainesville, Florida to work remotely, still focusing on getting information out to their viewers, and this storm is something her station has been planning for.
I don't think we could have anticipated it until just recently, in the last few days, the strength that Ian would show. And it's now, I think, 2 miles away from becoming a Category 5 hurricane.
She tells me those inside her station are there to stay until the storm passes. She also says their crews out in the field are in safe locations reporting on Ian.
I was getting text messages at 2 and 3 a.m. once I arrived, a few hours after I arrived at Gainesville, to say, hey, this is starting to heat up. Can you jump on and help us? And ever since then, it's been a nonstop wall-to-wall.
Melissa also worked with WYMT for a week when deadly flooding hit our region. She says when she was driving to Gainesville, she saw many power crews heading down, reminding her of the help Eastern Kentucky received.
It is true that Kentuckians were wandering all over the place, but having gone through something similar yourselves recently, I think you know just how devastating this can be, but how it also pulls us together.
Showing how Americans work through disasters together. Dakota Makris, WYMT Mountain News.
Melissa tells us her station, WWSB, is built to withstand hurricanes. She says if the station does go off the air, she is the station's backup anchor on their digital platforms, so their viewers will still know what is happening. We talked with another Eastern Kentucky native visiting family in Tampa. Hazard First Baptist Church pastor Tim Reynolds got to Tampa last week. When we interviewed him this morning, the rain was starting to pick up, and now he's just waiting out the storm with his family.
Jesus tells us that, in this world we're going to have tribulation, but he said, be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. And we're not exempt from these hard times and these difficult times, but we know even during times like these, Jesus says, be of good cheer.
Pastor Reynolds says his family prepared for the storm. He hopes to catch a flight back home on Sunday and maybe be back in the pulpit on Sunday and catch a flight out on Saturday. Well, Kentucky State Police are investigating a deadly fire in Harlan County. It happened just off Kentucky 552 in the Putney community early this morning. Once the fire was extinguished and the scene was cooled, cadaver dogs found human remains at the scene. The remains will be sent off for identification. Officials say no arson or foul play is suspected. Police are looking for a Perry County man that failed to appear in court. State police say 39-year-old Alfred Francis of Bullen was supposed to be in Clay Circuit Court in relation to a trial stemming from a deadly crash in 2019. A warrant has been issued for his arrest. Anyone with information should call state police. The Elliott County Sheriff's Department is looking for a possible theft suspect. They posted these pictures on Facebook. They believe the person could be armed and dangerous, and you should not approach them. Deputies say the alleged theft happened early Saturday morning. If you have any information, you should call the Sheriff's Office at 606-738-5422. Police are looking for a missing Pulaski County man. A golden alert was issued for Claude Elmo Kleba, also known as Butch. He was last seen at his home in Somerset. Police say he has Alzheimer's. He could be driving a 2014 black Ford F-150 with Kentucky tags A6L136. If you have any information, you should call State Police Post 11 at 606-878-6622. Governor Andy Beshear and other state leaders announced a new way to help those suffering from substance abuse, use, and addiction. There is now a new website dedicated to helping people find housing while they recover. Kentucky has had staggering overdose deaths in the last several years. Governor Beshear says this is an example of multiple groups coming together to fill a critical need in this area.
We'll help people at a pivotal moment in their life. It'll help them find safe, stable, and affordable places to stay so that they can focus on their recovery.
For more information on the recovery housing, you can go to our website, WYMT.com. A Pike County man was arrested after a drug investigation. State police searched a home on Redale Road in Pikeville. Police say they found suspected meth, heroin, a gun, cash, and other drugs. 41-year-old Joshua Hayburn was arrested and taken to the Pike County Detention Center. Rapper Coolio has died. Reports say he died at a friend's house in Los Angeles. The cause of death is not known. Coolio released his best-known song, Gangsta's Paradise, in 1995 as part of the soundtrack to the movie Dangerous Minds. It became one of the most popular rap songs of all time. Coolio was 59. And a legendary CBS News White House correspondent has died. Bill Plant, one of the longest-serving White House journalists in history, died of respiratory failure today. Plant retired in 2016 after 52 years with CBS. He covered the civil rights movement, the war in Vietnam, all the presidential elections from 1968 to 2016 and was anchor of the CBS Sunday Night News from 1988 to 1995. He was a White House correspondent for 35 years. The award-winning journalist was 84 years old. We'll be right back.